there, and welcome to Reclaim Your Pleasure. I'm Krystal Centinello, your trauma-informed boundaries and empowerment coach. And today is the final episode of this podcast. Don't worry though, we are closing out this series with an empowering conversation about boundaries, joy, and reclaiming your life, because that's what you deserve. Now, before we dive into all the juicy stuff, let me take you back a few years. Picture this. It's the holidays, and I've somehow managed to host 15 people in my small home for dinner. I'm running around the kitchen like a contestant on Top Chef, except there's no prize money, just stress. I had baked cookies. Scratch that. I tried to bake cookies. My husband at the time asked me why I didn't set a timer. I was busy entertaining, checking the ham, washing dishes, and simultaneously making sure my daughter wasn't eating from the dog bowl. What happened next? My ex kept harping on me for forgetting to set the timer and asking how I could possibly forget. I know when cookies are done. The outside edge is slightly brown and the rest is still the color it's supposed to be. But the rest of the guests were feeling so uncomfortable. I could see it on their faces. And if I didn't see it then, they still talk about it till this day. But my ex-husband at the time didn't say, "Oh, no big deal." He said, "Why didn't you set a timer? I can't believe you forgot. Why wouldn't you set it? How could you forget to set the timer?" And I just stood there. I held back my tears, I held back my anger, and I tried to save face. I put on a mask so everyone around me would feel comfortable. And I thought, why am I even doing this? I don't even like cooking. But here I was, trying to be everything to everyone and failing spectacularly. I wasn't pleasing anyone, especially myself. And that's when it hit me. Saying yes to everything wasn't making me the Wonder Woman that I wanted to be. It was just making me miserable. Do you ever feel like you're the host at a party and you can't actually enjoy yourself? Why do you even bother hosting a party to begin with? I'd much rather be a guest and enjoy myself and relax than host and make sure everyone's comfortable and everyone has their drink filled and everyone's doing great. And having a partner on top of it who was looking at me like, "Why aren't you making sure everyone is comfortable?" made it that much worse. I was so miserable. And I know I'm not alone in this. How many times have you actually said yes to hosting a dinner, babysitting for a friend, or picking up extra shifts at work, only to feel completely drained afterward? It's time we stop. Today, we're going to talk about how to set healthy boundaries with family and friends so you can move from overwhelmed to empowered. And don't worry, we're going to keep it real, relatable, and judgment-free. Let's start with a truth bomb. Saying no doesn't make you mean. It makes you honest. I'd much rather be friends with someone who's honest than someone who lies. And as people pleasers, we lie even when we're not realizing it, because we're telling people what we think they want to hear rather than what we're really thinking or feeling. So setting boundaries feels impossible because we've been conditioned to think that putting ourselves first is selfish. There's a Seinfeld meme that's like, sometimes I just want to think about myself. Is that so selfish? And Seinfeld responds to George Costanza with, yes, George, that's the definition of selfish. But it's not. As people pleasers, we are so busy about thanking everybody else that every once in a while, if we think about ourselves by setting a boundary, it's not selfish. So here's why this happens. Researchers have found that our brain's desire for social connection often conflicts with our need for autonomy. When we say yes to something we don't want to do, we're trying to protect that connection, even at our own expense. When we look at the basic needs, we need food, water, shelter, and connection, belonging. So if we say no, we're afraid that we are not going to belong with other people because we're going to cut off that connection. But healthy boundaries are going to strengthen your relationships. Healthy boundaries show people what is okay and what is not okay. On the receiving end of that, I prefer somebody to tell me what they want out of a relationship and what works for them and what doesn't. When I have to guess at what's okay and what's not okay, that is more work for me than I would like. I'd prefer to have a roadmap that shows me how to give love and respect. So why not give a roadmap to someone else by setting a boundary to show them how to love and respect you? And if someone can't handle your boundaries, that is not your problem. Most people who can't handle boundaries are people who are narcissistic, who are abusive, who want to have power over you and control you. If they're having problems with your boundaries, it's because of their personality. Or maybe you've had this song and dance going for most of your life and they're just like, whoa, where is this coming from? I'm not used to it. But anybody who truly cares and loves you and respects you will be open to your boundaries. So here's what happens when you don't have boundaries. There's burnout, resentment, exhaustion. Sound familiar? Without boundaries, we risk depleting ourselves to the point where we have nothing left to give. Setting boundaries without communicating them to someone else can also be okay. It can be an easy start as long as we set the boundaries with ourselves so we know where our own limits are. Many of us people pleasers don't have a limit, which is why it leads to burnout. In 2017, there was a study published in Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin. It found that people with clear boundaries experienced less stress and are more satisfied in their relationships. We're talking about this a little bit more in depth today because many of us just celebrated Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving. So we may have dealt with some family-friend dynamics, and maybe our boundaries weren't so clear. So here's how that family dynamic plays a role. Families are tricky. Families know how to push your buttons. Whether it's your over-opinionated cousin or your sibling who assumes you'll always say yes, family often expects us to bend over backwards. But here's the thing. You can love someone and still say no to them. In fact, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set a boundary. Why does the guilt creep in? It shows up because you're stepping out of your comfort zone. You've been so conditioned to just say yes without thinking about it that when you say no, guilt is like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that. Nope. This is the time. You feel the guilt, you're going in the right direction. It's like that awkward feeling when you're learning a new dance move. I mean, it feels awkward at first, but the more you practice, the more natural it feels. All right, let's get practical. If you've been doing something else, take out that pencil and paper, the notes app, whatever you're going to use. Here are some actionable steps to start setting boundaries today. Number 1, identify your limits. Think about what drains you most. Is it being the go-to person for family drama? Hosting events you secretly dread? Identify those drainers and write them down. Number 2, start small. You don't need to tackle the biggest boundary right away. I've mentioned this before, but start with something low stakes. Decline that last minute invitation to a lunch you don't want to attend. When it's last minute, someone is not expecting a yes, so it is low stakes. And you can just say, nope, I'm busy. Nope, can't make it. Do not launch into a long explanation of why you can't attend. Baby steps will lead to big changes. 3, practice your responses. A simple thanks, but I can't goes a long way. Practice it ahead of time. Thanks, I can't. Thanks, but I can't. However many times you need to say it, prepare it. If you have more persistent people, try, I appreciate you asking, but I'm not available. The shorter, the better. The more believable, it's sweet, and it's drama-free. Number 4, use visual reminders. Stick a note in your mirror. A mirror you look in every day. Have it say something like, boundaries are love. Breathe and set boundaries. Boundaries for the better. Whatever is catchy and helps you. Make it a daily reminder that saying no doesn't make you selfish, it makes you healthy. Number 5, get comfortable with guilt. We said this on the last one. Find comfort in the discomfort. It is okay to feel guilty at first. Remember, guilt is just your brain's way of adjusting to the new normal. You're not doing anything wrong. And lastly, number 6, delegate when possible. If you can't say no, find ways to share the load. Maybe someone else can bake cookies or host the dinner. You don't have to do all of it. Boundaries are like muscles. The more you use them, the stronger they get. And remember, setting boundaries isn't about keeping people out. It's about letting the right people in. As we wrap this episode and this podcast, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey. You've taken the first steps to reclaiming your pleasure, and I couldn't be prouder of you. Now, if you're ready to keep listening and keep diving deep, check out my other podcast, Normal But Not. Over there, we're tackling everything from people-pleasing to the quirks of growing up with a fun but dysfunctional family. We've tackled topics like, is burnout normal? You won't want to miss them. And don't forget, in January, I'm hosting a 1-hour workshop, Guilt-Free Boundaries, the key to reclaiming your power. It's the perfect way to start the new year feeling confident and in control. Details are coming soon, so stay tuned on Instagram at Complete Coaching with Krystal. Until next time, or rather, until normal but not, remember, reclaiming your joy isn't just possible, it's your birthright. Get out there and shine, my friends. Bye for now.